we are live. There we go. We're live recording. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool. And Jonathan, today we are going to be talking about a book that you sacrificed one of your children for. It's so expensive.
Yep.
You know,
he didn't. He'll be having to take out loans for some loans for college. Of course, he's got this year already paid for, so he'll have to figure out how he's going to pay for the next 3 years after.
Well, maybe he could borrow the book, and although it is password protected, so maybe I don't know if you'll give him that or not. So
no, he's going to have to earn everything he does. This is my copy. So
a little life lesson there. I love it.
No, we're going to be talking about a interesting book. One that I've seen a ton of ads lately, and it's one that's crossed the Facebook. He's probably running ads all over the place, YouTube, but I've seen it many times on Facebook, and he's done a really good job on some of the videos, and to the point where I'm like, oh, it's so intriguing. I'm going to finally check this out. So should we go ahead and mention the title or kind of save that?
Yeah, okay. We can go ahead and mention it because I'm sure people have seen it around. So
okay,
they might want to stick around if we say the title name. So basically, we're going to review and discuss the Puppet Master's Bible.
Yes.
By Tom Walker.
Tom Walker, who we in fact I reached out to him about coming on the podcast, and he replied back. He said he appreciated the invite, and but he doesn't do podcast interviews. Very secretive,
very mysterious. Now, see, the way you should have phrased that is you should have to give more impact. I mean, especially after reading the book. Instead of saying we reached out and he declined or he replied, you should have said he refused to be on the podcast.
Refused. Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds so much, so much more.
That's right.
Hits the brain different, right? That's what we learned.
That's true.
That's what we're learning in the book.
Yep.
Like it's more divisive. Oh, he refused.
Yeah. Not just declined, but refused.
Exactly.
I mean,
no
intention.
Yeah. But he's hiding. Maybe he's hiding from something.
He did give us permission to take it apart. Yeah. He's like, have at it. And so that's what we're going to do.
There. I like that.
So we're going
to... It's going to be like I'm over here cashing my checks. I don't really have time for... do whatever you want with it. It's still selling. Free press is good press. So, I figure if we say review, then maybe it'll show up because I saw there was a review or discuss on Reddit. So people are asking. So we're doing our part for the interwebs.
Oh, okay. Good. And there's no back end. You're not going to find any back ends in this book.
Wow. Seems like a missed opportunity.
That's a missed area of persuasion and influence. But
he does have your email, right? He does have your email though. So who knows?
He does.
Down the road.
And he's very consistent at emails too. So, I'm sure we'll see something. Yep. But we're going to talk about this book. It's a again, title Puppet Master's Bible. I got the physical copy and the PDFs. Okay. And he's got actually a couple of other editions that are related to if you're a parent with probably more younger kids and ways to persuade them to eat their veggies or whatever.
Let's see that hardcover. That's a nice book. Hardcover.
Yep, hardcover.
Yeah,
super thick. The hidden strings. The subtitle is "Pull the Hidden Strings of the Mind to Win Hearts and Open Wallets."
There you go. That's what we all want. That's what we all want, right? Open those wallets in one direction, not both directions, right? You want the wallets open towards you, not open wallet away from you. So,
exactly.
Let's before we get into the details and the goodies.
Yep.
Let's have a little juvenile alcohol talk because I'm not having beer today. I'm having.
Well, you have the better beverage today, so I'll let you go
whiskey
first.
Today. All right. Yes. Well, I'll go first then. All right. So I am having Akashi blended Japanese whiskey. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting about this? It is a whiskey, but they actually finish it in old bourbon barrels, oak bourbon barrels. Mm. So it's got a little bit of that bourbonish smoke and oakness to it, but it's still technically a whiskey, and it is a product of Japan. We had, I think in the first 10 years, first 10 episodes, I think we had a couple of Japanese whiskeys on. And since then, mostly because of our podcast, the prices of Japanese whiskeys have skyrocketed.
Thanks to our show.
Absolutely because of our show and what we did 4 or 5. If you could put a chart side by side, look at the price of Japanese whiskeys and when those episodes aired 5-6 years ago, it's just correlation.
What was the name of that scotch that we had?
We had Suntory.
Suntory, yes.
And then the Habaki we had after that. One was like the $30. That's now like $60 a bottle. And the Habaki, which was like an 8-year Japanese whiskey, that sucker is now like $120 a bottle. It was like $40 back then. So, man, should have bought stock in them. But I
got some of that Suntory for a Christmas gift this past year.
It's good, man. It's so smooth. It is still one of my favorite whiskeys for sure. So, here's the other one we had, the Hibaki.
Yes.
Japanese Harmony in that nice cool bottle.
Yep.
Yeah, that thing's now 115 euro. It's about 140 US. So
very nice.
Yeah, so this one's just a blended whiskey, and it's. I got it for Christmas, so haven't had it a lot, but
Delish.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to your review. I'm sure it'll get a 5. All right, I'm going to share mine. So I've got an old school beer. Sean swears we've probably reviewed this before, but I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I think we have.
But I'm having some Jamaica Man. I have the worst Jamaican impersonation.
Accent. Yeah, that's pretty weak. I'm going to see
Red Stripe. Though. The first time I learned about Red Stripe beer was from a John Grisham novel, Sean.
Okay.
I had no idea. I thought it was actually a make-believe beer because I think I read the first John Grisham novel I read was The Firm. And so there's a scene, I guess it takes place in the Cayman Islands, and he's having a red stripe. And I thought, what's a red stripe? I didn't even know what that was. Of course, I was really young. I was like in my 20s back then.
Didn't they drink that on Cool Runnings in that movie?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but
yeah. I mean, that's such a classic, high quality movie. Surprised you don't remember that one, but whatever. Now, Red Stripe, man, good. Is that a red beer? It is, right? It's a red ale.
Yeah, it's like a red ale.
Yeah,
Jamaican red ale. And they've got I like it because they're always got the unique little short bottles, which I've always loved.
It reminds me, those bottles remind me of the old Coke bottles we had in high school that were the 16 ounce.
Yeah. Those little fat bottles.
I wish they'd bring those back with the little super thin styrofoam wrapper on them.
Yeah, the styrofoam wrapper that you always, I don't know, for whatever reason, you just had to tear that thing off.
Yeah, just strip by strip, just pull that sucker off. Yeah,
and it never would come off completely. It was just like you said, little strips just pulling right off.
Yeah, it gave you something to do. Yeah. It was the high school equivalent, of peeling the label off a beer bottle. It's just styrofoam off a Coke bottle or Mountain Dew or whatever your soft drink. But man, I miss those bottles, man. Like
I do too. You forget about things like that. You forget about, I still remember the tabs, pulling tabs off of cans.
Oh yeah.
That dates.
Did you put yours back in the can?
I think sometimes I did. Yeah. Sometimes I did. So
yeah, that was like a thing. Like you just stuck the tab back down in there. And
Yep.
Hoped you didn't come out while you were drinking it. So it's weird. But and then at the end you get that nice little rattle because it's down in there. So, yeah. So all right, well let's cheers it up.
All right. I got no glass today, so it'll be an odd clink. Here we go.
It was odd.
It was. One of these days, Sean, I'm going to remember what button to push on this thing.
Oh, if only, you could label them somehow. Does it not have a space to label them?
It comes up with one of these little paper label thing that you lay over the buttons, but I always lose those things because you move this.
Just get a Sharpie, and on the laugh track, you just put a big smiley face, and then just draw a little glass on the other.
There you go.
Because those two you're not changing, so might as well.
I could draw a little beer glass on this button. I think I could do that.
My wife is laughing at us, so just so we know. Good.
All right,
3 years, I can still make her laugh.
That's good. That's
a
sign of a healthy.
Although I think before
marriage.
She laughed with me, now she laughs at me. I think
perfect. Yeah, I get that too.
It's evolved. For sure. So.
You ever watch the show King? It's an old show, King of Queens. Did you guys ever watch that?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's like the perfect marriage comedy. It's like, and it's timeless. It goes all. I mean, you could watch that again today because I think it was like in the late '90s, early 2000s. But you still watch it.
I like that better than like Everybody Loves Raymond or
Oh yeah.
Like King of Queens is much better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The comedy was so much sharper and faster and wittier too.
Yeah.
I mean,
that New Jersey.
Yeah. Yep.
So now did you ever watch her? What was her name in the star in that? But she did that whole series on the whatever church that was. Oh
yeah. I don't remember. I don't know what her I don't know what her real name is.
Yeah. Can't remember either.
But yeah, she's good. She's good.
Yeah, she did this whole series on I think it was the Scientology church or was it something else?
I think it was Scientology.
Yeah. Just tore them apart.
She was in that. She was part of that for a while and then got out, right?
Yeah. Then she made a whole multi-part documentary on it. Pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right. Well, let's jump in. So I wanted to show. Well, first of all, I wanted to
give our rating.
Oh yeah, rating. Dang.
People are waiting in anticipation.
I know. It's like they're like just screaming at the podcast right now. So
what is it? All
right. Well, I'm going to give this Akashi. It's very smooth, and this is only like a $40-$50 bottle. Man, it's smooth. Like a lot of these Japanese whiskeys are just smooth.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. I'm going to give this a 4.9.
Wow.
It's really like, I'm not a, super whiskey connoisseur. So some people would be yelling, at the podcast right now, but I think if you're just thinking drinkability, like nice and smooth,
what is drinkability is nice and smooth. That's what
for me.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, like, if you're making faces as you drink, I just don't think that's a good experience.
Okay. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, how about you?
Right. Well, in terms of drinkability, this is very drinkable.
I mean, it's a pretty basic beer. It's the Budweiser of Jamaica. Let's be honest.
Yeah. You've got me Cool Runnings. You got me thinking of that was the John Candy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good actor. Great actor.
Jamaican bobsled team, which is kind of based on the real thing, right? I think that movie
was based on a true story. Yeah.
So
I'm giving this a 3.8. 3.8. Because it's good. I mean, I would drink this over a any domestic beer for sure.
Yeah. Over Bud or a Coors Light or one of those.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into the Puppet Master's Bible by Tom Walker. So first of all,
look at that.
I want to hear about your experience as a buyer. And then also your honest opinion, like after having read it.
Okay.
Did it live up to the buyer's? But first, let's talk about the buyer's experience.
Yeah.
And why you pulled the trigger and if people haven't seen it, I've seen this thing listed anywhere from $100. I saw a sale banner yesterday for like 59. So if you want to get your money back, Jonathan, you might send him an email. But
I think I'm just a sucker for expensive books that you can't buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's a curiosity thing,
That's it.
It's intrigue, and it's scarce. It's probably a little bit of scarcity, and it's intrigue. There's another book called Greatness. I think we've talked about that book. It's like $100 book, and it was a similar thing where he was like, the guy ran ads forever, and to the point where you ignore it, and then there's a curiosity effect that happens, and based on some of the stories that and some of these, I mean, you have to do a good job on your advertising, your marketing up front with the video. So yeah, I mean, I think that was it. I think it's all about scarcity and intrigue for me. Because it's always, he mentions in a certain part of this, like secret is still, in 2025, secret is still the most powerful word in persuasion. And I happen to agree, no matter how many times you've heard, this is the secret, this is the secret, this is the secret. And, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to fall for that again. But we do as human beings, because there's something about us that we want to know. Our minds want to figure things out. So,
well, I think that, the thing about a secret, because when I started working at Stansberry way back in 2009, one of the very first things my copy chief told me, he was like, it's always a secret to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were like, isn't secret overused? He's like, it's always a secret to somebody. It's like,
right.
So no, it's not overused, and it still works. And I think the reason it works, if we talk specifically about the word secret, this wasn't really in the book, but what a secret basically says to our brain is it's not your fault that you don't understand this or know this.
Right. It's been hidden from you.
Yeah. Or it's like, and even if it's not hidden, it's just like, you just haven't found this yet. It's not your fault. But that's really what a secret says. It says, in advertising anyway, it says this is not your fault, that you haven't figured out whatever part of life this secret pertains to.
Yeah.
And
it's the fault of those there's a group of people that have conspired to hide this from you to some degree and keep it away from you. And you know what? This guy or whoever is going to finally reveal it and finally make it available for you.
Well, let's talk. That's kind of how the book starts. So he starts with a little story of his nephew who won't eat his broccoli.
Right.
And I was kind of reading the story, and then what you just alluded to is like the first line that really caught me. He's like, I found the villain for this little kid.
Yep.
Right. And I was like, yes, that's right. When we have a villain, then we're engaged. Like, we need something to fight against. Unfortunately, that just seems to be how we're wired.
Yep.
And for this kid, who they had tried everything to get the kid to eat his broccoli, and finally the thing that did it was like Tom, the author, noticed that this kid wanted to beat his older brother in a race.
Yeah.
To the bathroom every night for brushing your teeth, not because he wanted to brush his teeth, because he wanted to beat his brother.
Yep.
I mean, you've seen that live out in your own house, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Might even have some holes in the drywall to prove it.
Absolutely.
But, once they unlock that, then that kid, and he put a voice to that, that's when that kid was willing to do anything, including eating broccoli to get that edge.
Yeah, it's just tapping into what persuasion isn't changing somebody. It's really, meeting them where they are, and figuring out what their real, like you said, what their true enemy is, or what their desires are, what their goals are. And, sometimes it's not obvious, but in this case, I mean, all it takes is a little conversation. Most kids are at that age, they're very competitive. They want to win.
Yeah. And the enemy may not always be a person.
Yeah.
It could be an institution. It could be an idea. It could be a struggle that you're going up against. But if you could define that enemy for people, man, it's so powerful.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
For us, cheap beer is an enemy, right? And we're going to continue to fight.
Yes.
We're going to continue to buy stouts and
that's right. We're going to defend
quality beers and do our part. Put the mass beer out of business.
And put non-drinking out. That seems to be the trend now. Everybody's moving over to the THC drinks or whatever.
Well, not in Texas. They just tried to vote. I don't know if it went through yet, but they're trying to all THC products gone in Texas.
Oh, so, is that official?
I don't know. I think the governor still had to sign it, but I don't know if it's official yet. So,
oh man,
passed the House and Senate or whatever it is in Texas.
I thought you guys were all about freedom.
I know. I thought so too. But then they pass Ibogaine initiative.
Yeah.
Which is so much more potent and powerful than THC will ever be. But
right.
Crazy. But it's not for public use. It's a study. So
yeah.
A tangent. So
yeah.
So you saw the ad, you bought the book, now you're reading it. What are some of your favorite things in it so far?
A couple of things you mentioned, constructing the villain. And we can talk about that. But at the beginning of the book, one thing that captured me, and we can hit on this, is listening, deep listening. He goes into very deep listening, and not just listening to, in the course of having a conversation, but really deep listening it requires practice and it requires training. Yeah. And it's very difficult because I'm even in my 50s, I'm still guilty of this. And this is a good reminder to me in conversations that so often we're all guilty of this, where we start to think about what we're going to say in a conversation that feels like we're out of our element sometimes, especially with total strangers. I think it's sometimes easier with people that we're more comfortable with or that we know. But in conversations with total strangers, we feel like we've got to have everything lined up on what we're going to talk about, especially in a meeting, a business meeting, or somebody like I even know this because I've been podcasting forever. But when I have guests on podcasts, sometimes it's like sometimes have a tendency. I try to be very intentional in listening to people and what they're telling me, but it's so easy to get to be thinking crap. Because once he wraps up this line, I don't know what else to ask him. so I'm already thinking ahead, and hopefully the conversation, that's just the nature of how some conversations go. Some conversations are very interesting. Some are very boring and technical. And quite honestly, I'm fishing for things to say or, respond to in some things that I don't even understand that are outside of my wheelhouse, when I have people on my my technical show, my composite show. So those are difficult sometimes. So it's easy to start thinking ahead or start to want to think about what you're going to say. Or even I was mentioning early before our podcast, just having a business meeting and wanting to get across your point of view in a negotiation, which those have been situations that I've been in the last few weeks where it's been, kind of a tense situation where you're going in there and you want to be armed with the facts and the reasons behind your position. But not the easy, but the best thing to do is to sit and really force yourself to intentionally listen to every word people are saying, because they're always sharing clues and there's always things that you can pick up on if you really force yourself to pay attention to what they're saying and not let your mind wander. I think it's so easy to let your mind wander, in a conversation. So,
yeah, I zoned out there for a minute. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, deep listening.
Yeah.
Listening. Training yourself. And he talks about this. He goes through some things. I'm going to pull up, pages, but he talks about, just forcing yourself to even practice. You can practice this of even with your spouse, you're talking to, because it's so easy with the person that you've been living with forever to, like, your conversation has a tendency to kind of, without thinking, go back and forth because the person so well. Right. And so the best place to start is with your spouse, your wife, and be intentionally listening to them and hearing what they have to say. So
I have to do this on sales calls, because I'm not we don't do the calls I'm doing right now for a client. We don't do video sales calls, which actually I think is good. I think it forces you to listen at a different level on the phone.
Yeah.
Than what video does.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you can get some cues from video that you can't get from audio, but if you really listen, you can hear a lot of the things that you would normally pick up visually. You can actually pick them up audibly if you're listening well.
I find it's easier to intentionally listen on a phone call as opposed to a video call.
Yeah, I do too. I find it's easier to stay engaged for some reason.
Yeah, because everything else is blocked out. There's too many things that you're analyzing. Okay, like the background, their background. What are they doing? Why are they sitting in that chair? Why are they why are they in that room?
Why do they not make up their bed like before this call? Like that's why are they in their bedroom? Period. Do you not have any other
still under the covers? I mean, come on, you could have at least woken, gotten out of bed for this.
Why is your laptop camera facing traffic in the house and not like a wall in the house, so we don't have to see whoever walked by? Like all kinds of things. Like, you miss all that in a phone conversation. So, you can hear that inflection, those changes in voice, tone, the speed up and down when people are on the phone. So learning to listen. We had to do that when I was in when I sold timeshare. Yes, I do repent for that. I apologize to our listeners. I do ask forgiveness.
Yeah.
But yes, I did sell timeshare for a couple weeks, and I could not.
There's a guy on XM nowadays that runs these, nonstop, these ads on getting out of your timeshare. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Not to sidetrack, but it's so good because he used to sell timeshares, but now he's like the big advocate against it. So
yeah. So what page are we on? And I got
my 53, deep listening and versus surface listening.
Yes.
So here's a couple of points that I'll share. It says, here's what happens neurologically when you practice deep listening. Neuroplasticity. No, I'm sorry. It's neuroplasticity. That's a tough word for me for some reason.
Yeah.
Every time you listen deeply, you strengthen your neural connections that support empathy and understanding. As you practice this consistently, your brain rewires itself to focus more on others and less on your internal narrative. I don't even know if that's true or not. That sounds right.
Yeah, sounds.
Is
impressive.
That right?
Sounds impressive. I do like. I'll just while we're in this section, I do like in this book. He's got a couple of he's got this one section here called the 21-day neural rewiring.
Yep.
Which is kind of like a little mini course. And, I think that's, I don't know if he talks about that in I haven't seen that in any of the ads that I've seen, but I would pull that out and maybe mention that. I don't know if it's on the sales page or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You should have 21-day. Yeah.
It's like a little mini course right inside. It's like 10 minutes a day. And then it's got the different things, you're talking about. The foundation of empathy is where the listening stuff comes in.
Right.
So it's,
because it breaks it down into exercises each day over these 21 days. And what's symbolic of 21 days? We've always been told 21 days it takes to what?
Make a new habit.
Yeah.
I've also heard 66 days, so I have no idea which one's right.
Oh, okay. I've never heard 66. That's interesting.
It's a thing. I think you can take away a lot of the resistance in 21 days, but then to really solidify it is 66 days.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure both those are made up numbers, but that's where we're at in the legend, in the mythology of habits. That's where we're at.
So here's an example of what you just said. Exercise on day 1. On the first 3 days, your job is simple. Observe yourself in each conversation that you have with a friend, colleague, or family member. Take note of how often you interrupt, change the subject, or turn the conversation toward yourself. I mean, we do this all the time on our podcast. I mean,
it's our podcast.
Exactly. We interrupt guests nonstop, but how often do you speak? And then on day, once you moving forward to exercise.
Wait, I'm going to interrupt you first.
Okay.
Seriously though, I have a question. Like it says, in each conversation you have with a friend, colleague, or family member, take note of how often you interrupt. So I could see myself like with my 4x6 card here.
I got one of these clickers. Click, click, click.
Oh, that's a good idea. I'll just get a clicker. That's a good idea. A little counter.
Yep.
They're like, what is that clicking noise? What are you clicking? It's my interruption counter. Like, is it every time you think you want to interrupt, or that you actually interrupt? I guess
that you actually interrupt.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're so thinking about what you're saying, you may actually miss the fact that you've interrupted. So you probably should double that, or
at least. Okay. All right. Back to our regularly scheduled.
So here's another example. Ask for exercise 2, learn to ask open-ended questions. How did that make you feel? Right. Which I always find is very odd to ask somebody. I don't know if it's in a business situation. Like I've always heard that. How did that make you feel? Well, I mean, I work with engineers, and I'm like, that's a dumb question. They'll tell me, you should know how that made me feel. Well, I was pissed.
Yeah.
Our production was shut down for all day. How did that make you feel? Well, I thought I was getting fired.
Though, I will say this, like, and I could see that maybe with engineers, but in the calls that I've been doing,
right.
I have a tendency to just say, so what do you think? Any questions? Like that kind of stuff, which we know is not a good thing because we don't want them to think about anything. Because then at the end of the call, they're like, I need to think about it because you've asked them to think 6 times throughout the call. So I've started changing that to just like really be clear and be like, so what are you feeling right now about what we've talked about? And it's amazing the difference in the answers when you ask that question.
Right. Yeah.
Because they are feeling something as you're talking about all this stuff.
But
again, engineers, when you're selling commodity products to engineers, probably one of the few exceptions, I would think.
I mean, this is more realistic. Like a follow-up or another question is, what do you think you'll do next? I mean, I like that question because I'll use that in my conversations. Like, what do you think? What do you think you're going to do next because of this, or how is that going to affect things moving forward?
Yeah.
Or how do you think that'll affect things moving forward? So,
I definitely like that. Like, and you could even change that if you wanted to soften it. You could say, what do you feel like you'll do next?
Yeah.
Right. Because then you can tap a little bit more into the emotion instead of the think.
But
it doesn't sound like an emotional question. Right.
Yeah.
But it's very subtle. So I'd probably change that word to that. I should make notes for Tom we can send him.
Yep. We'll send you a list of corrections on volume 2. Last thing here, and we can move on from the listening, but I like this because it says in one of your exercises, your job is to ask questions that uncover a person's aspirations. What are your goals? What drives them? What drives a person that you're talking to? And this is an everyday conversation. It's not just business, but like, you think about people that you're meeting in a social, some social situation. And, these are things to consider when you're having a conversation for you introverts out there that don't know what to say and or just stand over near the snack bar. Frustrations, what's holding them back? What's causing them to stress? That could be touchy.
Yeah, you might get more than you bargained for on that one.
You might want to read the room on that one. Hidden emotions, what feelings are not expressing outright? I'm reading this all wrong. What feelings are they not expressing outright, but that you can sense in their tone or body language?
Yeah, so that's not a question you're gonna.
You're thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I heard somebody talking about like networking events and like things to say instead of, so what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? Because
yeah.
first of all, most people don't even like what they do. So it's not a great question.
No, because that just reminds them of how much they hate their job or occupation or whatever.
Yeah. So a good question was like,
what do you like to do?
What has you excited these days?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because then it could go in any direction. Could it be sports? Could be, whatever, and you could always help them with that if they can't. Because for most people, it's, especially in that setting, it's kind of a shocking question because they're used to people saying, so what do you do? Or where are you from? Not like, so what has you excited these days?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I like that. I tend to ask something like, what do you enjoy doing away from, work?
Yeah.
So, but I like the question of what motivates you or what moves you or what excites you.
Yeah. I like it because they may be excited about a project at work, or they may be excited about, coaching their kids' little league team. It could be anything,
Sure.
And if they answer that honestly, and I think the key there is you have to give them a little space to answer it, because I don't think most people have that off the top of their head.
Yeah.
Because it's an unusual question. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the other. I had a couple of things here. So a lot of this, I will say, he has a lot of, studies that we've talked about on this podcast multiple times. Books,
a lot of Cialdini stuff that we've, Cialdini, and
some of your favorite stuff around like thinking fast and thinking slow is in here. Heuristics, a lot of that kind of stuff. Central route versus peripheral route, which is kind of the same as thinking fast, thinking slow.
Right.
So I like how he does blend and integrate that in with the just the overall lessons and the stories and things like that. One thing I wrote down is decision making versus decision rationalizing.
Okay.
I just like that phrase because we've talked about it before. Like, most people think they're making decisions, but the decision was made so fast and so quick that most people are just rationalizing. But if you could point out that people are rationalizing their decision, not actually making their decision, if they're not going in the direction you want them to, I think you can bring back people a little bit. If you can it's kind of like waking them up. It's like, you do realize you're just rationalizing this decision as opposed to making it. Like, I think there's a place where you could do that tactfully.
Right.
In a conversation, if you see somebody kind of going down a path. So I just like that phrasing. There was some other. What was another section? Did you have another section you liked?
I know we've spent a lot of time with guests and talking about stories, but there are some, I don't know, maybe there's some good reminders on, crafting unforgettable stories. It's on page 125, and I made a list here. The best stories that, and you think about this like in TED Talks or anything like that, when people are on stage or people are in an audience or giving, a presentation, you want to look for stories that share, and it always goes against, it's always counterintuitive because we're protective of ourselves, but you want to share stories that show your vulnerability. I can't even say that word slowly, so I have to say it fast. Share your vulnerability, share some stories where you've totally just blew it, right? I mean, I could tell a lot of those stories. Pacing and anticipation, that's a good one. Building anticipation, the way you tell a story, you have to really build that anticipation leading up to like the main point or the crescendo or whatever, and really build things. Because if you don't if you jump ahead too much, or you jump back and forth, it really kills it.
And I don't think he mentioned this in here, but while we're talking about it, I think one of my favorite story techniques that doesn't get enough airplay is always start in the middle of the story or in the middle of the action.
Yeah, right.
There's a phrase, in medias res, which basically means in the middle of the action. Like, start. Right. It's why action movies always start in the middle of a car chase, and then they have to backpedal.
Oh yeah.
So like 3 days earlier, or 3 hours earlier or whatever.
So well, that's the way some of the best novels start too. Like,
right.
When you start out, it's like there's something, it's not like, well, he's, making a cheeseburger in his apartment or something like that before, it's like, nah, there's something major going on that you're anticipating is about to happen in the first few pages,
or you're trying
novel.
to figure out why this is happening already.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really what you're looking for is when you start in the middle of action, you're creating cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
People are like, how did we get here? Like, now I've got to stay tuned to figure out how we got here. Right. Where if you kind of roll into it slowly with once upon a time.
Right.
It's like that doesn't work anymore for the most part.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. If you were to slow, people would put that down immediately. It's like, yeah.
If you were to retell those stories, and you've seen some of this when they retell, do modern versions of the old, fairy tale stuff.
Yeah.
You start in the middle of the action and then you flash back and bring it forward.
Yep.
So if you can start in the middle of a moment, and that's just a really powerful way to start a story.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a super dramatic. It just needs to not make sense enough that people want to stick around and find out what's going on. It doesn't have to be a car chase.
No, it's like it's like it's where your brain is trying to figure out. Like somebody starts out a story like I woke up in a room. I have no idea what the room is, but there's blood all over the walls and
happens to me all the time.
You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But something that's out of the ordinary that throws you off, and your brain's got to figure out, okay, what's happening or what's going on with this person.
Exactly. Yeah. So then he had another section in here. Where was it? So going back to the table of contents. We love a good numbered list, right? So he had the 31 linguistic patterns of persuasion.
I was looking right at that because that was the next thing.
Yeah. 31. That's a long list, so we're not going to go through all of them, but
like 31 flavors.
Yeah. That's that list alone is probably worth the book and having
I agree.
Bookmark. If you keep this book on your desk, and when you reference it and use it for different campaigns, different things you're doing, and I would definitely have a little piece of tape or marker on this section. So we'll just start at the top. Just one example he calls priming the invisible seed. So we've talked about priming.
Yep.
But using specific phrases. So he gives real world examples. Well, first, let's go back. It says a seminal study by Barg, Chen, and Burroughs in 1996 demonstrated priming's power in a controlled setting. Participants exposed to words related to old age walked more slowly when leaving the lab, despite being unaware of the connection. Like some of this stuff. Do you remember the movie Focus with Will Smith?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
That whole movie was about priming.
Yep.
And it's a good movie. And I just have such a hard time actually believing that works. But study after study after study proves that just such small details like that, like this study, like words related to old age made people walk more slowly when leaving the lab. That is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's how powerful these and how subtle this stuff is. Because I think we think sometimes it's got to be these big, bold campaigns that sway people, but it's actually the very subtle stuff that has the most profound effect.
Right.
So yeah, they said political campaigns in the 2016 U.S. presidential election weaponized priming on social media. Ads targeting specific demographics used emotionally charged phrases like corruption and freedom. The repetition of these primed associations reframe complex political issues as visceral binary choices. And obviously, depending on which way you're going, you could pick which word, you're trying to steer people. Consumer behavior. Retailers frequently employ priming to shape purchasing decision. A store might subtly play classical music to prime customers to perceive products.
Oh yeah, that's classic.
Yeah. Alternatively, scent marketing, like the smell of fresh bread in a grocery store, primes hunger, encouraging more purchases. Is it interesting that the bakery is usually in the front of the store, like the first section?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They don't tuck it in the back. It's usually in the first part of the path,
right,
where you go. So all kinds of stuff like that.
Realtors who show houses, I mean, perfect way to prime them is like have baked bread. Just that smell of baked bread in the house. Yep.
I literally have a chocolate chip cookie with me. Tamara made cookies.
Oof, man.
Just haven't eaten it yet.
Sounds so good.
And little things like, we've heard this one before. If you introduce large numbers into your presentation, it doesn't matter what the numbers reference.
Okay.
Could be about anything. It could be a random fact. Be like, hey, do you know there's 26 million stars just in our galaxy?
Yeah.
Or, some crazy like that. Or did you know it's 153,000, 187,000 miles to the moon? I'm exaggerating, but like big numbers that you can fit in somehow. When you mention your price, it'll definitely seem smaller,
right,
than if you don't mention that number at all.
Yep.
And that sounds crazy.
What is it?
It sounds
Compare and
ridiculous.
contrast. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's priming. You're priming for a big number. So when you finally let your number, anything less is going to sound less.
Right.
And you're like, well, of course. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Like there's no logical reason that should work.
Yeah.
But that's just the way our brains
it's like somebody asks you what the price of something and you say, well, you're going to pay $1 million, and then you come up, I'm just kidding,
Yeah, but that
you
works.
think about that, but it works. It sounds ridiculous, but in negotiation, I mean, and that's, people laugh at like the art of the deal and Trump, the way he's like, throws out big numbers first, or he demands everything. It's he knowing good and well that it's all about compare and contrast, where he throws out something big. I want this. I'm going to give you it's going to be 200% tariffs, or this number and this number. But it's all about compare and contrast, because that's not where you're going to end up.
Yeah, it's all giving room for negotiation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's it's like, what does every single person who ever's tried to buy or sell a house, do? That like, they figure out what they want to pay, and then they go 50% more than that, so that the difference is where they end up. Like, and you keep going back and forth with half.
Absolutely. Yep.
Until you get to your number. It's crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, I just think priming is so underutilized by the average marketer. I think advanced marketers, big companies, big corporations use it all the time.
Right.
But yeah, if you haven't watched that movie Focus in a while,
that's good. It's been a while. It's been quite a while, so I need to go back and check that out.
Man, to see like, and yes, it's a fiction movie, but that is how Vegas works. That's how a lot of these apps where you're betting, I can guarantee you they're using priming on different screens, and you don't even realize it.
Right.
To get you to lean towards certain bets and all that kind of stuff. So so what were some of your favorites out of that list of 31? Did you have any marked?
Obviously, I told you earlier, scarcity language, because it's one that I focus in on, triggering the fear of missing out, and I try to use that in a lot of what I do without being totally. You don't want to be dishonest in this, but I use it for whether it's I'm reaching out to a customer. I always try to put a deadline on things, like you have till this date, and I'll try to make that. It's not an artificial, so if you make it an artificial and you don't stick to it, then it doesn't really mean anything. And
you lose credibility down the road that way.
Yeah. So you've got to stick to deadlines. You've got to stick to limitations, or that's, no one will trust you. But
I will say this. Amazon does a really good job. By the way, I just interrupted you. I'm aware.
There you go.
Took a note.
Click.
They do a really good job of using scarcity, where they'll say there's only 3 left in stock.
Yeah.
But what they don't tell you is that like there's more stock on the way because their supply chain is perfect, and they like.
Oh, I know.
There's 14 more coming.
But it plants that in your mind, like you're thinking.
But it's just enough to be like, ooh, because what if I have to wait? Even if I had to wait like 2 days, I mean, I'm used to getting stuff, shipped by 2 a.m. the next morning. Like,
right.
I want my Prime overnight. Like, give it to me now. I don't want to miss out on that. So they use that. I mean, Amazon uses all of this stuff brilliantly. I mean, they know this book inside and out. And that's why they control the world right now. So,
and a lot of companies they may say even limited stock, which, it's good to put a number by it, but even if you don't, you may not have, you may have 10, 20, 30 or whatever, but in your mind, oh yeah, it's limited because.
Well, it is limited.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is limited at some point.
Yeah. There's a finite amount, if you have 100, if you have 200, if you have 1,000, there's a limited supply. So, but in our mind as a consumer, we're thinking limited, there must be,
Yeah, we must be down to, I wonder if you did a survey, what limited supply like meant, units wise, what the average answer would be. Would it be less than 10? I bet it would be. I bet it'd be less than 10.
Yeah. I would say that most people would expect probably single digits or, around that, maybe under 20 or something like that. But
it's probably 20,000, but that's and still it's like, I mean, technically that's correct. Like that is limited. It's not an unlimited amount. So it is limited.
And the fact that you put it by certain things, I mean, you could have a lot of a certain thing, but if you're just trying to clear out inventory of a certain line of things, I think companies probably do that,
or even if you
supply.
And if you put bestseller above limited supply or limited, now that's a double whammy, right? Because they're moving even faster, and it's social proof, and it's like you start stacking some of these things, it gets really, really powerful.
Yeah. Scarcity, you can use scarcity in a lot of different ways. I think scarcity and the limited supply, you can also use scarcity, what I call the the takeaway selling approach, which is I've tried to apply this to most of my selling, is that you don't try to be, it's counterintuitive, but you don't make yourself available at the whim of a hat. Somebody wants to call you, a customer trying to get a hold of you. You keep yourself limited, or scarce a lot of times. And most people fall prey to like, I got to take care of my customer problems, like on a dime. I got to do everything or whatever they need. And, this is the old Dan Kennedy where I learned years ago is no BS sales training that, the more you make yourself available to your customers, the more they're going to take advantage of you, and it cheapens what you offer to them. So
the more they expect you to be available.
Absolutely. So and you're not, you may be working to help them, or you may be providing value for them, but doesn't mean you're a slave,
Right.
So you have to keep a distance from that, and make sure that they understand that you're a valuable resource, but you're not at their beck and call whenever they want to pick up the phone. So,
well, we could go ahead.
Yeah. And like voicemail is the greatest thing. I always let things go to voicemail, because if it's important, you'll leave a message. And if not, then it must not have been that important. But there's a lot of, I think you had mentioned maybe making this kind of a 2-part, because there's a few things that we haven't covered, but we could make those. We could do a second episode or a follow-up episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's 300 pages in this book, so it's and it's pretty.
And there are some, and there are some more that I have written down, and maybe we'll save those for part 2.
Now we did wrangle an affiliate link for this as well.
We did, yes.
Do you have that handy or?
Yes, I do. It's a long one. There's actually 2 versions. One is a very long
chat. Put it in the private chat, and I'll put it on the YouTube channel.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. I'll put the shorter one. Actually, I'm just going to put this one.
Maybe by next week we can have a redirect.
Well, let's see, private chat. Here we go. That's the long one.
That is a long one. Okay.
Here's I'm going to put the short one too because it's got my name on it. It's probably easier to remember. It's just tomwalker.com/my name. I don't know why he used that, but let's see. Here we go. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's better.
Yep. But yeah, we can. I can probably change that to like Persuasion or something. But yeah, that's the affiliate link, and we'll have it on our show page. For this episode 395.
Okay, so it's tomwalker.com/Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Jonathan is with A-N at the end.
A-N, not O-N.
Yes.
There's no H in Jonathan. My goodness.
Yes. It's all kinds of complications there. So
but no, it's a we'll give our honest assessment of the book. I would say there's nothing earth-shattering, but or just mind-blowing that says wow. But a lot of these things are just good reminders and to go through. And if you're new, if Persuasion is new to you, I mean, we've been covering this for almost 400 episodes. So we've read, there's so many books and we've had so many guests on. So all of this stuff feels redundant, but
yeah, I mean, we've been in this, between you and I, we've been in this game. I mean, whole careers, sales, marketing, all that stuff. So yeah, but I think if you wanted a reference, yeah, absolutely. And I think if you wanted a reference guide on your desk, I think this would be a good.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like Bob Bly's Copywriter's Bible.
Yeah.
But more for the influence and persuasion things. And you could, you tab this book up and you could get, you could really have
absolutely
remind yourself to drop a few of these things into your whether it's sales conversations, whether it's, funnels, whatever you're working on. Even implanting some of these into, if you're doing books or inside lead magnets, like all these places, like all these, it's going to build on itself. So
I like some of these numbered lists that like you were talking about, the 31.
Yeah.
You could copy and post some of these in like just a notes tab. You didn't have to have all of this, but some of these you could just pull as reminders that you could put in a notes tab and just kind of review those from time to time. But yeah, I love how he kind of lays it out because it's very organized. It doesn't go all over the place,
Right.
So that's what I like.
Yeah. And you do, if you when you go to the website, tomwalker.com/Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
You will have to say you're over 18 to get this book. It is that powerful. So.
That's another, that's another trick.
Yeah.
It's like every beer website that we go to asks that. And so, what is your age before you can look at this?
Yeah. So he has one of those little pop-ups on it as well. And kind of I mean, it's a good site. It's a cool sales page. One of those like parallax sales pages. So really well done. He's got a lot of little things going on that too. So even worth kind of hacking the funnel to look at.
It says on the are you of legal age? Advisory content contains advanced cognitive manipulation techniques.
Yes.
Age verification is required. You must be 18 or older. Yeah. So doing a little Alfred Hitchcock there, Persuasion.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll pick up a little bit more on this next week.
Okay. Yep.
And we're still trying to wrangle up a guest that we have misscheduled a couple times.
Right.
Not on our end, but just on his end. So
Yep.
So
we'll pin him down because he's got a new book and he's been a guest on before. So we'll just leave it at that. But to all of our listeners, we'll have as Sean mentioned, we'll have the affiliate link on this on episode 395 on our show page. you can check it out. And then we'll have a follow-up episode next week. You can find us persuasionbythepint.com. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast platform locations, whatever you listen to podcast with. I don't know. Spotify, whatever.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.